Everyone, my name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about something that a lot of guys will not talk about, do not talk about, think that it is a sign of weakness, being soft, and I'm here to tell you you're wrong. And this is coming from someone who has had their mind changed on this topic, and I'm hopefully going to be vulnerable. And I'm doing this, I'm opening up today because I care about you. And I don't want bad things to happen. I want your mental health to be solid, and I want you to be strong. And I want to show you what that looks like. And asking for help and getting help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Recently, a couple weeks ago, I just found out a firefighter died. A firefighter killed himself for a local fire department. I didn't know this individual, but I know a lot of individuals like this guy. Family, wife, kids, and I don't know the reasons behind the suicide, but I do know it had to do with his mental health. And for a long time in my life and in my career, I kind of thought the people that had mental health problems, the people that suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, in a way it was because it was a guy that got into the career and shouldn't have. It was a guy that he had some underlying problems. It's before he started, he had some back problems. And then when he started doing this really challenging job, his back hurt. Yeah, of course. Well, if he had back problems, he probably shouldn't have started a job where you have to have a high level of physical fitness. I kind of felt like that's what it was. And I felt like I wasn't that person, that I didn't suffer from I wasn't affected the same way as other people. And I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. And I've had my eyes opened to the struggles of mental health. And it's not what you think. What I see when I see mental health and I think about it and I hear about it, I think, at least what I thought was that these guys were not doing the work that was required, or they had the wrong mindset. Like they weren't thinking about it the right way. Like I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people die. I was there on the last day of their life. I put my hands on them, and most of those didn't affect me. And I thought that was because I had the right mindset. For instance, I've never lost anybody. I don't take possession for anybody that I've worked on dying, and I don't take possession on the wins. Some of the CPRs that I've had where I've talked to the person later and they're now alive, that wasn't a win for me. The other ones weren't loses, and to me, that was the right mindset. I'm doing my best, and I'm not going to let that affect me when they die, because it was their day to die. It was just their time. As a religious person, it was God's timing. I felt like that, and I felt as long as you had the right mentality, that you were going to be okay. And what I've learned is that your life is affecting you. And someone told me the story, and it really stuck with me. And I think this is how mental health works, and at least the trauma. And I understand some of you aren't experiencing, trauma on a daily basis. You're not experiencing these high level, stressful events where you're in danger and they're in danger. And I understand that I'm on the high end of that. But we all experience stress. We all experience trauma. We all have things that are bad in our life that happen. And this is what happens when we become men. And as men, we feel the need to provide, protect, to care for those around us. We put on this backpack, and throughout our day, we get little pieces of stress and we put them in the backpack. And if you're strong, you can carry lots of, pieces of stress, and let's call them rocks. You can put lots of rocks in that backpack. And in the bottom of the backpack, there's a hole, and some of that stress just naturally, it just rolls out, especially the small things. Some people's, the hole in their backpack's bigger and they just dump stress. It's just not affecting them. But eventually they get so much stress in there that even the small things get held in because they're all packed in together. They're all tightly connected, and your backpack gets heavy. And eventually, after years and years and years, it's all still with you. It crushes you. If you go back to the backpack, maybe you get, sciatic pain, or your knees hurt or something. It seems unrelated. I'm carrying a backpack, but my knees hurt. That doesn't seem like it's related. Well, I have stress, so I drink. I have stress, so I have anger issues. I have stress, so I do these things that aren't, that I'm cheating on my wife. How does that stress? Well, it's on you. When it's on your body, it's affecting you in all kinds of different places that you can't predict. And as you're building that up, you have to take active measures to take that out. And so I'm going to kind of split up post-traumatic stress and stress into two different things. I don't think there's anything wrong with stress. I think post-traumatic stress can be a good thing in the sense that it makes you appreciative for what you have. Like, I think I have a better outlook on life than most people because of the stress that I have and the way I've dealt with it. It didn't crush me. It made me stronger. The greatest generation, my grandparents went to war, fought in Germany, fought in Japan, fought in the Pacific, fought in the Atlantic. They came back and they built a great country. Why? Because I think that experience gave them the strength to do great things. And so stress is not bad. What's bad is if you let it continually bear down on your life and crush you. And so if you've been filling up this backpack over and over and over again, at some point you have to make the holes bigger in the bottom, and that's you dealing with the stress so that the stress is falling away as you're putting it in. And this can be from positive mental mindset, from meditating. This can be from exercising. Having good physical health can help you overcome negative mental health. But at some point, it could be too much, and you need someone to reach in there and help you take these rocks out of the top. And that's when it comes to therapy. There's nothing wrong with talking with somebody. And there's informal and formal therapy. Formal therapy is go see a professional. And I take it in a injury standpoint. If you are getting ready you can do your first powerlifting meet and you've been squatting, and one day you feel a little tweak in your back and you go, you know what? That doesn't feel right. I'm going to rest. That's you taking care of the problem. You take a couple days off, you relax, and you come back a week later, little twinge is gone. You're good to go. You fixed it yourself. 3 weeks later, you're working out. Man, your left knee hurts really bad. You take a couple days off, you rest, still hurts. Well, maybe you need to go to the doctor. The doctor said, it looks like you got a partial strain in your ACL or your quad. Take this medication. Take some ibuprofen. Take these anti-inflammatories that are going to reduce the swelling. Your brain in your back, in your quads, and your hamstrings are all muscles. They're all living organisms, and they get damaged. And sometimes you need help. I'm asking you to go get professional help. They've been to school for this. It might take you a while to find the right person, but they can help you take those rocks out. And you might even need to take medication. There is a stigma where if you're taking a mental medication, it means you're crazy. If you're taking something to help you sleep, a mood stabilizer, obviously you're just crazy. And it's a negative thing, but you would never say, your pancreas stopped producing insulin. Man, you are crazy for taking insulin. No, you have to have it. We are a machine. As much as we are soul, as much as we are mind, we are a machine that has chemicals that we have to function effectively. Your brain is a computer that has to have chemicals to function effectively. And you can take medication to get those chemicals right. There's nothing wrong with that. You would never shame anybody for taking insulin if they were diabetic because their pancreas didn't produce insulin. Don't shame yourself. Don't shame anybody else who's taking medication because your brain is not producing the right chemicals. That's what mental illness can be. The great thing about mental illness, though, is that in addition to medication, there are therapies that people have spent years and years and years developing that can help you understand where the stress came from, understand where that trauma is, and take it out of your backpack so you can live a free life, that you can move around without problems. And, I mentioned that I was going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to talk about two things. One was recently, and it has to go with just emotions. In 2001, on September 11th, I was sitting at a fire station. It was my first year as a firefighter. I walked into Station 4, and because it's my first year, I'm expected to do. I'm a rookie, so I'm cleaning. I'm doing everything. I'm not watching TV. And the guys were having coffee, and I walked into the kitchen and I looked, and they said, check this out. So a plane hit the World Trade Center. And so I stopped. And now I'm not supposed to be watching TV, but we're all watching TV. And as we're sitting there, a couple minutes later, a second plane flies into the World Trade Center, boom, hits it, catches on fire, fireball. Then we sit down. Everybody sat down that day. We all watched TV. We watched it for hours. We watched the towers fall down. And one of the senior firefighters, the captain, he said, we just lost a lot of guys right there. And I didn't have any emotion. I wasn't sad. It was a somber moment, but I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any New York firemen. I didn't have any connection with that. I mentally understood that several firefighters had just died, that lots of people probably had just died. But I didn't feel like that pit in my stomach. I didn't feel like I was watching a loved one die. I just observed it. That day we watched TV for 16 hours, and then I moved on with my life. The following year I'd meet Andrea and we'd fall in love, and my life moved on. No emotions. Now, I couldn't tell you why, but I don't watch documentaries about 9/11. I've never seen any of the movies about it. I don't feel like sick when I watch it, or I just decide, it just seems like in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to watch it. And I have never been able to explain why. A couple of weeks ago, we were on vacation and we went to New York. No big deal. Got off the subway. We're going to go see the new World Trade Center. And we get off the subway. We're in the Oculus, this really cool building. And we walk over, and there's two reflecting pools, and they have water that flows into them. One of them, there was no water in it. They were cleaning it. No emotions. I walk over to the other one, and I've got sunglasses on, and I immediately start crying uncontrollably. And I'm not a crier. Like my son was actually freaked out a little bit. He goes, "Mom, I've never seen Dad cry like that." The sense of emotion was overwhelming, and I didn't know why. And that is the power of your psyche. I had something inside of me, something inside my mind that was there in that moment, triggered it. And it was pure, genuine tears. And I can't even tell you they were tears of sadness. I don't know what they were tears of. I thought about the guys that died, and maybe as a father now, and maybe as a command officer where I understand being responsible for people, making decisions to put people in bad, dangerous positions. Maybe all that, I've felt all that, and it came out in emotions and in tears, but that was inside me for 20 years, or for 23 years. That was inside me. That emotion, that was doing something. That was in my brain, that little bit of stress. That rock was in my backpack, and I've been carrying it all this time. And I don't know if by crying and feeling that emotion, if I got rid of that or not, but then I realized that I have that it's in me. And there's something in you. It could be childhood trauma. There could be things that you're holding on. And when that gets too much, you need to get help. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. Men are almost 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. It's killing us. Almost 50,000 people died of suicide in 2022. It is a real thing. And that's just the worst case scenario. If you think of the common man, the average man who's not going to commit suicide, who doesn't have suicidal thoughts, we still have the stress. We still have the anxiety. It still affects our relationship. Go get help. Go get help. The second thing I want to bring up is I had I never want anybody to feel bad for me for my job. And I tell you the story, I don't want you to feel bad for me. In fact, I'll get on Facebook sometimes, and I'm on a lot of first responder pages, and people are like, yeah, when people ask me what's the worst thing I ever see, they have no idea what it is. If my mind could only unsee that. I'm not like that. I decided to do this job. I signed up for this job. The negatives are just as much a part of it as the positives. Don't feel bad for me. I want to do this job. I think I was put on this earth. So I'm gonna preface that saying this. But I had a call, absolutely terrible. A young child was left in a car. The dad forgot he was back there, and I won't get into the reasons why. We get there, and the dad had pulled the baby out of the car, young boy, and Dad's freaking out. Absolutely. He just went crazy for a second, wouldn't give him to us. I wrestled this little 3-year-old away from the dad. We started doing CPR, and I don't know what's going on. It looked like he had cigarette burns. I started screaming at the dad. That I asked him, "What did you burn this kid? Did you burn this kid?" And he wouldn't talk to me. We physically had to restrain him because he was trying to get him from us as we're doing CPR. I was on a fire engine, not an ambulance, so I didn't have the ability to transport. Long story short, the ambulance finally gets there. We get in. We go to the hospital. as we're going to the hospital, more of this little kid's skin started coming off, sloughing off, to the point where like one side of his body had almost no skin on it. To the point where afterwards we came back and the cop showed up and they wanted to know what we did. What'd you do? He's like, you're not in trouble, but what'd you do to the kid? Why did his skin fall off? And we didn't know. And well, at the moment it was very sad. I had some anger, and we immediately I called our chaplain and I said, Chief, we need you to come in. We had this is a bad thing. And he sat down and talked to us. And, I had anger with that. And I kind of felt like I did what I needed to do. I debriefed. I followed the process of, we have a problem. It was a mentally straining thing. And, if you go back to weightlifting, I lifted more weight that day than I was capable of. It wasn't an immediate injury. But what I didn't realize is that was going to affect me maybe it still does today. For probably 6 to 12 months or so, probably it got less and less after 6 months, I would find myself biting the inside of my cheek, just tensed up. When I'd wake up in the morning, my mouth would hurt. I lost some, my crowns, had a couple of them come off, and my dentist said, you're grinding your teeth at night. And I didn't actually think of that for almost 4 or 5 months, but I had never done that. And I realized that's when it started. I had an event that was more than my body could take. I can go back and I can feel those emotions right now. As I speak, I feel it. I can almost feel that emotion. You can maybe hear it in my voice, because mental health, it can stay for a really long time. And I hopefully, you think I'm a cool guy. I want to be a strong guy. I want to be a leader. I want to be all these things, and I want to lead you guys, and I want to be an example. And I'm letting you know that if you have a positive outlook on me, that I have struggled with mental health, that it is a real problem that you have to deal with. You have to talk to somebody. Our chaplain comes once a month on a Sunday, and we sometimes we just talk about being a fireman. Sometimes we talk about the sport. Sometimes we talk about his life in Vietnam. He was a Vietnam vet. And then sometimes we talk on the benches about things that have been messed up, and we get it off our chest. And that most of the time that's enough. But when it's not enough, so please seek help. I don't want to ever hear that someone that was listening to this show committed suicide, because call me. And I'm not a medical professional, but I'll listen, right? Find someone who maybe you have a negative idea of what a shrink, a psychiatrist, a psychologist is. You don't believe in that? Well, go talk to your priest. Go talk to your pastor. Go talk to somebody that can help you get an outside perspective, because mental health is real. I personally know 2 firefighters. One committed suicide. He hung himself. One attempted suicide. He did not die. And now he's doing good, but these were guys that I didn't think would ever do this. The one guy that attempted suicide and it didn't work. If you hadn't asked me to list, hey, every firefighter, put him on the list from most likely to least likely to kill themselves, he would have been dead last. He would have been in the back page, all the way in the back. I never would have thought. Mental health, mental problems is real. Please go get help. There's suicide hotlines. I'll list that in the bottom. It's a free 1-800 number. You can call that. Get help, guys. Don't let your mental health ruin your life. Don't let it push you towards drugs and alcohol. And realize this, that you can't avoid stress, but you can grow from it. And that's what's, I don't want to say exciting, but having bad things happen to you, depending on how you look at it, can truly make you a great individual. It can make you someone, like if you go through a terrible divorce, high stress, right? If you get the help you need and come out good on the other side, now you can be there for somebody else. You can actually use that trauma, use those bad things to live a better life, to live a stronger life. You can be our version of the greatest generation because you went through really tough things. You're not sick, or you're not weak. You're sick. Go get help. Get physical help, get mental help, get spiritual help, talk to God. You can get this fixed. It's not permanent. Don't let a temporary feeling, hopelessness, these things overwhelm your ability to get what God has for you in your life. Like, go after it. And I want to be here for you guys. I want to help you. And as a group, as a community, we can do that. So my name is Danny Dumas, and this has been the Earn Your Title podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.